Gilgit and Baltistan were part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir that acceded to India. Pakistan invaded these territories by committing war crimes, by sending its civilian soldiers in civilian attire and occupying those territories. There is no question Gilgit and Baltistan were never asked what to pawn. Number two, they are sovereign territory occupied by Pakistan, and they are sovereign territory because India recognizes as such. As far as Pakistan goes, have you read the United Nations Security Council resolution of 1948? What is the first point, sir? What does the first point say?
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm asking a question, sir. If you don't have, one second. No, just a second. If you don't have the answer,
if you are going to, as a commentator, you have to be impartial.
No, I'm not impartial. I'm not impartial. I'm not impartial.
You should read your body and
No. My question, sir.
It is settled in the United Nations. Government Kashmir is disputed territory.
No, it's not.
Not part of India.
It's not. Have you?
It is. You can go to UN map.
Okay.
I
have one question. Have you read the United Nations Security Council resolution?
Yeah.
And what is line number 1?
What is line number 1?
You don't know, right?
I know.
What does it say?
Please tell me.
What is it?
What you have read?
It says that Pakistan will withdraw every soldier and civilian from the territory of the state of Jammu and Kashmir that it did not occupy or were not present there on August 14, 1947.
Yeah.
So get the damn Pakistani troops out of there and get your surrogates from the Chinese army out of that area and then come down and talk. Don't spend this Pakistani propaganda over here that Jammu and Kashmir. No, sir.
Why are you saying Pakistani propaganda?
Because you are a terrorist government.
I am also, like Barhanda is here, I am also here, I am fighting for my rights. How can you then be as a terrorist or a Pakistani?
Anybody supporting Pakistan is a terrorist.
You see, the UN resolutions are that both.
You haven't read it, sir.
Has to retry his forces.
You have not read it and you do not have the courage to admit it.
First begin with the UN Security Council Resolution 48. Sir, have you read it? Have you read?
No.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is go on to the UN Security Council's website and read that fabulous resolution that every Pakistani points to, but which not a single one has read. I also then want you to take the actual version from the UN Security Council, and then I want you to compare that to the claims made by Pakistan's permanent representation to the UN. And you're going to understand your confusion, sir. So the resolution is actually very clear. There are 3 steps. They were sequential and they were conditional. The very first step was that Pakistan was supposed to demilitarize to the satisfaction of this UN body that was to be established. Then, conditional upon the UN being so satisfied with this demilitarization, India was also supposed to demilitarize with a presence being permitted to defend itself against Pakistani aggression. The third, having both of those 2 steps taken place to the satisfaction in sequence to this preferences of the UN, then the plebiscite would be held. So all those Pakistanis that are so upset about the plebiscite that never happened, they have their own government to blame because Pakistan never fulfilled the first necessary but insufficient condition. So I'm going to encourage you to actually read that before you ever make such a fool of yourself again by presenting it in public, right? So just do yourself a favor by reading the darn thing.
Welcome to this special episode of Writer and Books. I'm very honored to have with me Mr. Tarek Fatah, who is your first visit to India, and you always claim to be an Indian born in Pakistan. I was watching your video interview in some Canadian Urdu channel in which you claim the first time you tried to cross over through the Wagah border.
Yes.
You stepped and some colonel scolded you. And
yes, this was just after the 71 war, and both countries had prisoners of war. Well, the Indians had a whole lot. We had about a few hundred, but the POW parcels would get exchanged under the ICRC. And I was a reporter with Pakistan Television, so I noticed there's a white chalk line, and I've got a clip from a 16 mm film which I've printed out. I stepped over and pretended that I had just crossed, and I just heard a very loud voice from And
Was it an Indian colonel? Or?
it was, yeah, obviously, Pakistani colonels don't shout loud. They were looking for barfi and pan that came from the... believe me, at those junctures, the only conversation that would be, sir, aapke paas pan hai? Yahan khatam ho gaya.
You also, I remember watching one of your interviews in which you mentioned 71 mein withdraw, surrender karne ke baad they asked for a whiskey.
Yes, the main issue was, what I hear is, the film Mehbooba, no, General Tiger Niazi wanted to have scotch and watch a film, a very famous Indian at that time, and so General Arora said, why not, we both come from the British Army, old chap, I'll get you whiskey and a movie. Okay, go ahead, keep your sidearms.
भाई कनाडा से हम और हमारे साथी सबको सलाम कहते हैं, लेकिन बलूचिस्तान की आज़ादी की जंग जो है वो अपने आप को मार के नहीं होती है, वो दुश्मन को मार के होती है। जाहिद बलोच की आज़ादी के लिए हम यहाँ जद्दोजहद कर रहे हैं, अपने आप को मारने से कोई फ़ायदा नहीं होगा। दुश्मन को जाके मारें, दुश्मन के सामने खुद मरने का शौक़ ख़त्म करें। बलूचिस्तान जिंदाबाद।